room. We're joined today by Andrea Hendricks from Georgia State University. She's associate professor of mathematics, also online associate chair for math. So we have Marianne Mert-Gerais, who is the associate professor of English at Middle Georgia State University, and Justin Jernigan, who is at Georgia Gwinnett College, is the associate professor for linguistics, but also the dean of student success. Actually, noted Justin has the longest title in the university system, which is an ongoing award. So there is a bit of a challenge in terms of getting him on a panel because he takes up a little bit more space on the leaderboard than anybody else. So the way this is planned to work, the way I'd like to work is I am going to ask a couple of questions of this group as a panel, and I want y'all to feel free to jump in. So there'll be an opportunity for y'all to unmute and ask questions, to unmute and raise your issues as well, because we recognize we have a limited amount of time. But one of the things that we do in this traditionally have done in the academy is really give an opportunity for campuses to share among each other. I am still struggling with how we do that in groups of 90 online in a way that's sort of engaging and meaningful. And I would actually encourage anybody, if you've got an answer, to let me know. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that if anyone wants to pop in and actually use their video, they can. But I'm going to start out, and I just want to sort of start out with some framing and ask all three of y'all in terms of so how long have you been engaged in online learning support? And sort of how do you structure your online learning support? And I guess I'll start, if you don't mind. I'm going to start with, I guess, Andrea, and then we'll just sort of go around, and then we can open up to the group.
Yeah. Hi, Jonathan. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this today. So I have been teaching online, actually at Perimeter College, for the last 20 years. So I've been doing online learning support. I mean, this predates the prerequisite support classes, right? So ever since I've been teaching online, I was doing either Math 97, Math 98, and then in 2015, when we launched the support courses, I was doing that then. So it's been quite a while. So we have always linked our support. Well, let me say, we did not always do that. I'm sorry. In 2018 is when we started linking our co-requisite and gateway courses together online and delivering them out of one LMS, or one iCollege section is what we call it at Perimeter. But prior to that, we were two separate courses online. But now that we are linking the two courses and delivering them from one online course as well. Justin, I guess, or
Justin.
All right. Yes. Well, at Georgia Gwinnett College, it has been it's been a pivot. We traditionally haven't looked at online as being our preferred way for delivery of co-requisite. So it has been a shift for us. We do have some sections that are online, that began online, and some that are online right now during the fall. We'll have some in the spring. It's the majority are still going to be in basically a hybrid format at this point. But that shift for us was something new in the spring. So yeah, primarily our delivery has been linked courses. So the 999 with the collegiate English 1101, that's on a mainstreamed model, and then our different levels of math support are linked to have a one-to-one link with the collegiate course basically. And but all those were face-to-face prior to the spring.
And Mert?
Okay, is it my turn?
Yep.
I have been teaching learning support in some form or another since about 19, but I am brand new to online. And it was done out of necessity this summer. I've usually taught the face-to-face, but when everything went online this summer, all of my learning supports were suddenly face-to-face, and I had to scramble to do that. I've liked the way it works. I had a successful summer course, and some of that is because of the type of students we get in the online courses. It's a mix of traditional and aviation students and non-traditional, ex-military, things like that. And I was resistant to online for learning support for a long time, but I see it has a lot of possibilities. that face-to-face, it avoids some of the problems of face-to-face, but has some problems of its own.
So when you say avoids the problems of face-to-face, like sort of what are we talking about?
We have a lot of non-traditional students in our face-to-face classes and athletes, and they're kind of, as long as I show up physically, then I've done everything I need to do. And the online seems to know that's not how it works, because it's like, well, I've got to get on here, and actually, if I don't produce, they won't know I'm alive. And I have to, it's less herding cats, it seems like. Or so far, my experience has been that with the traditional students, they're a little tougher to get motivated sometimes.
Is there any institution on the call that has sort of deep experience in online online learning support, actually doing the learning support section online? If you want to unmute yourself or put it in the chat. Okay. So for those of y'all who are doing it now, again, I think, Mert, this is actually a great transition point too, because one of the things that we're curious about is what's proven most successful, like what's working best, the strategies, the practice, the approach, in learning support, like what's working best, and part of it is like you get their presence, which is nice. How do you do it?
One thing that our school does is we have an overarching template that goes on to every online course. And part of that is just introduction to the course and things like that. But they are required before the course will unlock to do a sample assignment. And one thing is an introductory discussion where they introduce themselves. And they seem to form connections to a great extent. They get to, it's just all they have to do. They don't have to respond to each other, but I find out that they do. And like this summer, I found out I had like 3 or 4 retired Marines, and they seem to form like a little group. And then discussing, working with children, and they're doing the similar majors and things like that. And it kind of they form a connectivity automatically through those discussions. And I think that made a difference. I'm trying to implement that into my face-to-face classes. Too, to kind of see that you all are more similar than you are different, and you can work together. But I think that has a great deal to do with it. And also there's that automatic discussion. They love the discussion boards. I have had a great deal of success with those in the learning support.
So rolling back, Justin, sort of what do you see working best? Like, so what's worked in getting students engaged online and doing this online?
Yeah, I think it has been challenging. What I've gathered from faculty to this point is that we have had groups of students who have been pretty successful in making this pivot to online, particularly in Coreq sections. And then we've had groups of students who have really struggled with that adjustment and understanding what level of involvement and how to be involved and engaged online, because it is a different experience. In our institution. I feel like what has been very helpful has been the support that we've been working to provide in the online environment. So, supporting students and student success has been a focus for us for quite a long time, given our access focus and our focus on supporting first-year students in particular in the Coreqs. So one thing that has helped quite a bit is shifting our online advising so that our mentoring and advising center staff are available to students online through interactive platforms. That's been very helpful. Our shift to online tutoring in our academic enhancement center has been very helpful, making that something that's pretty seamless. So it's a link that appears right on a student's D2L page, their learning management platform. They don't need to go and search for how to get access to a tutor. And we have tutors who are very familiar with our Coreq curriculum, and so that's been very helpful. Kind of related to these, we've started to tailor these workshops. We call them LIFT. It's launching and inspiring your first year transition, because we need acronyms just to make things stick, right? And so these LIFT workshops, I feel like have been a good start. But getting students engaged, I think that is the challenge within the actual Coreq sections. And so we're trying to provide as much in terms of levels of support in a virtual environment. I mentioned the hybrid idea. So we do have a number of sections that are doing a hybrid approach. So the students do have some face-to-face. And I think that experience has been another sort of level of let's learn this together. What's the best way to meet your needs as a student? In the same way that we're focusing on making sure that you're learning everything you need to learn to be ready for all that's involved in the collegiate course. And we do have the same instructor, by the way, in all of our Coreqs. So the instructor in the Coreq and the Gateway course are the same person.
Oh. So Andrea, what have you?
Yeah, so we, like Justin, have the same instructor teaching both the Gateway and the support course. Like I said earlier, from the same LMS course, so students only have to go to one place to find their coursework, not two different courses. So that has worked really well. We also, sorry, I'm hearing, that's okay. We have academic success coaches that are also assigned to our support courses. And so these are people with a master's in social work or higher that meet with our students after they complete a LASSI assessment, and then just try to help students with the non-academic skills and managing their life and school at the same time. So that has helped. That does actually count 10% of the support grade, where they have to complete the LASSI assessment and meet with the academic coach through WebEx. And then we also embed discussions within our courses each week, so that students are reflecting on their performance on tests. They're learning these academic mindset issues and discussing those, and they seem to really like those. Those are at least in our 997 and 999. So some of these things that I'm talking about, our 996 just went live this fall. So some of these are in all of the courses, some of them are only in a few of them, but just so you understand that. And then we also have course templates that we share with instructors, so that we take that heavy lift and heavy burden off instructors to create those courses, so they can just copy our template and then really focus on teaching and facilitating the course. We use our HTML Daylight accessible templates, and those have actually worked really well. Those are in our 999 and 1111 course, but it just gives a really pretty view, right? Not a lot of text, white space, so it's a little bit more pleasant, I think, for students who are already anxious about math to look at that type of page. We use intelligent agents to keep students on task, and if they're missing assignments, so that they get some notifications for that. Rubrics for discussions, scheduled WebEx meetings. So a lot of it is about accessibility, right? And so some of these things aren't just strategies for support students, or strategies for any online class to be successful.
I think that's related to a question that's in the chat from Dee Dee about, so she said one of our online instructors in English, a professor said that we're trying to teach them using tools they don't necessarily know how to use. So, and there was this element of like, it's in the LMS now, and there's also, you've got WebEx in there, or Blackboard Collaborate or whatever. And what's the support for the student, particularly in the early part of the term, to make sure they know how to use the tool? Is there a checkpoint? Is there a resource that they use within the class or outside the class? How does that get done?
Well, for our courses, I suggest, I don't tell everyone that they have to do this, but strongly recommended that they make a video walking through all of those important elements of the course, so that students know how to do it. I mean, the college actually has some orientation to our iCollege platform that students can complete. There's a link to that in the course as well. We definitely say, come join us in WebEx. I've had some faculty members require it like over a period of a week, but then they have to be available almost 24/7 to meet the demands of their students. But just something for students to get in there to say, oh, this isn't so bad, I can do this, right? To give them some confidence up front is really important.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I'll give a big shout to our CTE, our Center for Teaching Excellence, because they have offered quite a bit of preparatory workshops and faculty professional development. It's not just restricted to those teaching Coreq, but we do have a number of Coreq sections, and so a lot of our faculty teaching Coreq have taken advantage of those. And I think that one of the approaches that has been successful is getting students involved in actively using the LMS early. So I really like that comment about getting them to do something small in the beginning. Seems to be a pretty effective approach. That's what I've used in my own class. In fact, is that kind of low stakes. Get in there and explain a little bit about your background, something that you're comfortable with, and then we can move on to some things that are going to be a little more cognitively challenging.
Yeah, that's how we all of our online classes have a start module that they have to do something in all of the different little platforms that they're going to be using. And I've added in a couple of videos that will step by step through them. And they're out there. You can YouTube and find videos how to upload an assignment or something. So it's like, okay, you may not know how to do this, but this takes you step by step through it. And I give them little freebie grades for just doing that. A lot of professors don't. It's just you have to do this. But I was like, look, these are little freebie grades to give you a little bit of cushion on your grade. So go ahead and do them. They're easy. And now you'll know how to do all of these elements of the course.
That's a great idea. I've actually, offered bonus points. If you just attend a session with me this week, or you go to one of the online tutoring sessions, something to show that you're engaged in the course, you know where to go to get help. I mean, 3 points on a test, right? It's nothing, but it seems like a lot to them.
So are there other suggestions about how to sort of help students from the group too, from the community, like how you help students sort of get used to the tool, get ready for the tools, and get comfortable with the tools that you're using?
Well, I'll speak to at least the course I'm teaching, which is college algebra, and then the support course, we require a Respondus monitor for all of the tests since we can't do on-campus testing right now. And so we have a practice quiz, right, where students get to go through that process. It's no points against them, so it's just something that takes the anxiety away from actually doing something before they actually have to do it for points. So that's one way that we do it, at least for those like high stakes things.
I think earlier in the so we had a series. It was sometime in the distant past, which is any time previous to last week, basically. But there was a discussion about essentially a scavenger hunt in the first week of school, like in the first week of your course, to develop a requirement where students have to go and, if you're using, so depending on the tools you use, if you're using discussion boards, they're going to go there to discussion board, and the next thing it leads them on a trail. So it's learn about me, I think, is the exercise that was given. And so there's an essay, and so we'll now go look into the discussion post, and you'll get your next clue, and now go over here to this, and you have to now find the document repository, and then you come over here and finish out the survey, and when you get the survey thank you note, and so it sounded immensely hard to set up, but she did note that she could carry it with every class she did, so she could carry it around. But it was also this intentional idea, somewhat like that low stakes idea, but that there's something to do where your students are familiar with the tool. Because I think that's really important, particularly as you go online and you have students who are in learning support who you need to know both on their collegiate course and elsewhere that they're going to have to be able to use the tool. That you've accomplished that early, which I think that's just, it's a very good question. So to sort of turn it around, what are you still working on? Like, where do you see the challenge that the students are facing, particularly as we've sort of really greatly expanded learning support from where you either didn't do it at all, Justin, or you've had some students in it, but not a lot of students. Now everyone is online for learning support, and where are the challenges coming up against now?
I mean, if I could look at it from sort of the macro picture, it's not losing track of sort of the basic principles that, we try to, keep the learning support. For us, the Coreqs are typically embedded in a learning community. They're centered or themed around the focus areas. So you don't lose the connection with the student's purpose, for being in school. And a few other principles would be we're doing our best to try to link these with our first year seminar, GGC 1000, to the extent that we have those available to connect with the learning support courses. So it provides, again, another opportunity for students to learn how to use the tools and also get more familiarity in a smaller class setting with a faculty member that they can really interact with and ask some of the questions that we do try to provide as much time as possible in the Coreqs, but if they're not able to get to all those questions there, they have another opportunity in the first year seminar. And so trying to keep those principles in place, but at the same time, figuring out how to best shift those to more of a hybrid or online environment. That's something we're working on.
I think for us, it's, and I can only speak with math, but I'm sure this is not just related to math, but just getting students to realize that things are going to take longer than they think they will take, and that they need to start working earlier than 30 minutes before an assignment is due. Especially when you have 5 hours of math or whatever it is, that it is really, 6 or 10 hours that you're going to need to invest in this course over a period of time, not just try to cram it in. And that's one effort to resolve that, is teaching them those non-cognitive skills, right, about time management, procrastination. When does learning actually take place? Cramming is not a successful way to do that. So trying to train them early that how they need to change their habits. And then I think also is just linking the material better. We've done well in the college algebra, but sometimes students don't see the need for what they're doing in like the 997 or 996 course until maybe a little bit later. So just trying to do a better job with that as well.
One of my issues has been students trying to take shortcuts, and in learning support, shortcuts are a bad idea for them because, well, they don't have the tools. And so they will often go up, instead of like going through the actual lessons, they'll go up to the top and find the drop down for assignments and try to just put an assignment in. I've quit putting any instructions in up there. And so if they want to find the instructions for the assignment or what they're supposed to do, they have to go through the lesson. I've got them embedded through the lesson. So it kind of at least forces them to hunt down. And like I had an email on that today. You gave us no instructions for this concrete words assignment. It said, oh, yes, I did. And you're not reading the assignment. And so he's got to go back into Unit 1 and read through and find where that is. I'm not going to make it easy for them, but I had that was happening this summer, and several of them finally caught on that they had to actually go through the instruction to get to what they were supposed to do, and then they know what to do. One never figured it out. I would get essays on just strange topics. It's like, oh, you didn't do the unit. Yes, I did. It's like, well, no, or you would have known what the essay was supposed to actually be about, not your cell phone. I got a lot of essays about her pink cell phone. I never assigned that. But they have to at least minimally work through the content to get to the stuff they have to actually turn in.
Yeah, I would say too, along those lines of, facilitating student engagement, I know a number of my colleagues at GGC have been implementing TILT to some degree or other, where there's that, really sort of more explicit focus on why we're doing certain assignments. And I've gotten pretty good feedback from that so far. It probably still goes in the category of, this is a work in progress, but I think that's an expanding pool of people who are focusing on that here.
All right. So as usual, we've run close to the edge of time, and we have more conversation to have, which I appreciate. I do want to, so looking both at what's gone in through the chat and what the conversation y'all have had, tying this together, I want to really sort of, highlight something that Andrea brought up to the fore, but I think you all have sort of said is like there's a bit of a team approach that becomes more critical with students who are not entirely in your classroom all the time, insofar as you've got I actually love the idea of success coaches, but it's really important that these students have some sort of like other folks to engage with, particularly because they're going to have to pass along those non-cognitive, those non-academic, non-strictly academic skills about time management, about reading the instructions in the assignment, about the fact that the course makes time, and by using near peers, by using older students, you have the opportunity to do this in a way that's not simply, sort of restrictively a parent figure, in loco parentis figure doing that. Mm-hmm. Right, I think that's true, Mert. You do spend a lot of time breaking bad habits, and you spend a lot of time exchanging an old pattern that was successful for a new pattern, and equally, you have a lot of students who wind up in learning support, we know this, who have not had a great experience and not been successful with the skills they've had, but have not been told that there's a whole host of other skills, other ways to approach the work. So giving access to new strategies and approaches, not just for the discipline knowledge, but just the school knowledge is we're learning a great deal more about how important that is. Which Dr. Denley noted this. We've got some training that was launched sort of at not at scale, but large scale in the just this past fall around academic mindset, focused on growth. We've had some experience working with growth in using a growth mindset intervention in eCore. We're not quite ready to say it worked, but what we can say is it seems to have had a significant effect, particularly on students of color, in improving their grade outcomes. And it's not one that will surprise you. It's your brain is a your brain is a muscle exercise. I'm a little concerned that we're getting towards treatment effect where everyone's seen it enough that they don't believe it anymore. But there is a fairly substantial now emerging body about the fact that growth mindset can be affected by context in course, particularly for students who have, either feel like they have imposter syndrome, as noted in the chat, or who feel like they really, really don't belong here. They don't have the skills and tools to do this work. That helping them see that these are actually skills that everyone works on, and that there's new strategies to apply is an important part of that. We are actually hoping to be able to reopen that course with some reset in a much broader way over the winter. One of the things we learned is that faculty don't have a lot of time to do professional development during the school year. Had no idea, don't know why that is. But we're hoping to make it available during the winter term so folks can take it at their own pace. It's not an intensive, it's about a 45-minute course to just look at the basics of it. And then there's a longer course on academic mindset that builds around starting off strong for your students that will hopefully be available too. With that, I just want to thank you all for your work. I have not done that yet, and I think y'all know I have a fairly, this particular area is I have a fairly strong affinity for. The work with the students who come in with the least amount of preparation and the greatest amount of anxiety about their academics is a part of me that just really, it is something I think is critically important for us to achieve our mission in Georgia and for us to achieve our mission as institutions. So I want to thank you all for the work you've done. It cannot have been easy doing it online and in the context that you did it this year. And I don't want to pass an opportunity by to say that we know that. And we appreciate that. And we appreciate the fact that your students are doing well because of the substantial amount of work y'all have done. So with that, again, I will give you back the rest of your afternoon. I really appreciate you spending 2 hours with us.